where was your first product? Where did you source it? Did you overseas? Did you keep it in the States? Or
one disclaimer, then answer your question. I'm a huge believer in business plans. So I don't want people to be like, oh, Jeremy never used a business plan. And so if you fast forward 13 years later, we have a whole corporate annual operating plan that our board meets on quarterly. We follow budget. Like we freaking nail that annual operating plan, and we do follow a business plan really, really closely now. I mean, each division has business plans. Like my point on it's like there, and that's one of the other things like probably talk about. Like there's levels to business. There's creating a company in your garage and flying by the seat of your pants, right? And you probably don't need an elaborate business plan. But then there's also having like 240 employees, a $10 million line of credit. Like we have to have plans at that level, you know? So those are different. But yeah, so back to your question, in the very beginning, in medical device, I would just go to trade shows and meet other manufacturers, and somebody would be launching a product and they needed distribution. I'm like, hey, I got a few sales reps in Northern California. We'd love to represent your product. In the very beginning, they're like, hey, we'll just give you just Sacramento. And then we were in Northern California, and then we started doing all of California. And it was after about, I don't know, 2-3 years, and we started expanding state by state. And then after that, it's like just copy paste, right? It's like, I don't know, it wasn't, that's a great thing about business too. It's like, there's so many books, like one of the books, Scaling Up, or there's a book called E-Myth, and it's just about how you create businesses, make them profitable, and then it's just copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. And it's like, look at Chick-fil-A, right? Like I know some people that own Chick-fil-A restaurants, but that's a franchise that's already been laid out. Like if you start one just started down the street from me, a brand new Chick-fil-A, and the line's like out the door, like that, they've got that whole system down so well that whoever starts that is going to be successful, you know? No, that's what we do for our distributors. So if I start in a new state, like in Ohio or something, then that distributor come in, I'm like, I already have the business. I have the plan, the products, the shipping, everything's set up for you to be successful. We just need you guys to introduce us to some of the doctors, and we can get this thing going real fast. Like, so that's where we add value. And then they have the feet on the street, and they a lot of times have the relationships there in that state. So it's, when you get to that level in business though, you can copy paste really, really quickly because you have the whole platform built out.
Oh, you're good. No, I was just going to say, I find that interesting. You say, Chick-fil-A goes in and automatically there's a line, no matter who's working there, you just know that it's Chick-fil-A. And I mean, we've been to, different fast food restaurants. Like we have a Carl's Jr. across the street from us that's meh. And we've had good Carl's Jr.'s too. It's one of those things. But Chick-fil-A always seems to have this standard of quality that seems to go across all of their stores, and they hold to strict standards. Is there something like kind of that you take from that where, okay, we want to make sure that we are a name that people respect. We want to make sure that we put out good products over and over again, and that we're not, treating someone great in this state, but treating them well. And, was that kind of a big thing to you to make sure that consistency was key?
Yeah, I think you hit on a big thing. Like in the very, very beginning of my company. So like, let's say day one, I'm the only employee. So I'm the sales rep, I'm the fitter, I'm the admin. Like I had to do it all. Like when checks come in, I would sit there and log the payments into the computer. I mean, I've done every single, even in my company, not every time, but a lot of times I start quarterly meetings. Like no matter what you do in the company, I've done it. Like, cause I just did it for 4 years, and at the end of the day, it's like, it really comes down to the fact that when you start a company out of your garage and you do every single thing, it becomes, I think there's value in it. Like I know there's I'm in a group called YPO. It's outsourced. It's like CEOs, founder startup people. And the other half are like hired guns that come in from the outside. And I just think the success rate on the ones from the outside are not as good, Well,
because everything, right? You know the ins and outs, and I think your company respects you, obviously, as you're the CEO, but that you've done everything. You know exactly what needs to be done, and you can't teach it or progress it through your company if you've never done it. So I think that's probably really vital in your business. And then, back to that manufacturing, I want to know your first product, because I have, in my warehouse, I have 5,000 detoxes that were just shit. And they're still there. It's been like 12 years later. Because that's the thing with manufacturing, right? There's big MOQs. What was that like in the first product? Was it overseas? Was it in the States? And how many units did you have to order? And did you ever make a monumental mistake like I have, where a giant word in the beginning of the label. So now I have, 5,000 units that are literally still in my warehouse 13 years later. And I haven't thrown them away. It's more of like a lesson, be like, okay, do it right. It's still there. I look at it every day, and it's a reminder of what not to do.
So when COVID hit, I know you guys probably remember this because it hit us all so hard. But remember how like masks were so hard to get, and it turns out we have a side company called Precision. So our main company is Precision Medical Products, and Precision Disposable Products is like my lesson in life and business of what not to do. So like what I want to do is like one day, teach entrepreneurship, and like for as many stories that show what to do, there's always stories over here what not to do. And Precision Disposable Products is like my 5-year run at what not to do. Anytime I step foot in this company, I fuck it up every time. Like, yeah. So the quick version of that, what not to do, is I started this company and go, okay, we work with surgery centers, right? And I did a 3-year program at MIT. So I did on a CEO side, I've done 1 year at Harvard and 3 years at MIT for as a CEO, right? And so these CEO programs are like there's this really good leverage point called horizontal integration. So we have 5,000 surgeons that work with us nationwide. So this guy at MIT is presenting, and I'm like, this is what I'm gonna do. It's like light bulb goes off moment. I'm like, he's like, what the products you sell? How do you take those same customers and just add products onto them? Which makes complete sense. Like you're walking away from free money. So we went and talked to some of our surgery centers, and like we're paying a lot for gloves, masks, all this disposable products. So we start Precision Disposable Products. We're like, same surgeons, same customer, but we're going to add all these disposable products. Well, the lesson turns out simple now. There's all these things I did in the beginning of the company that I didn't do with the second company. So like when you start a company, it's really important you start like small and you just test run stuff, like, right? So I didn't test run anything. Like we already have we were super cocky and confident, fast growing company. Everything we do is so good. So we buy all these products, just like what you did, masks, Band-Aids, whatever, and just we bought like I don't even know, like 50 or 80 different products. But I spent $3 million on products because I'm like, our surgery centers are going to order them, and I already talked to the surgery centers like, yeah, we'll order your products. So I'm like, great, everything it's gonna work great. We get the first PO from the first surgery center, and they're like, wait, hold on, we have a McKesson contract, we can't go off of that, so we can't order from you. I'm like, oh. Well, it turns out everybody out in the industry has McKesson, Medline, Cardinal. They get rebates from them. Even if we beat their pricing, they can go get the rebates on pharmaceuticals and just crush us. Like their POs are in the millions. Ours were in like the thousands. Like we were just a tiny, tiny fish in that really big pond. We got crushed. So check this out. This is how bad of a story this is. What we got to do. I had to like basically give away all that product. $3 million. I basically gave it away for like $1 million and lost $2 million on it. Okay. That's round one. That was 5 years ago. But Jeremy Perkins doesn't give up, right? So COVID hits, and they're like, everybody comes back there. We will pay you immediately for masks. If you can get the masks, I already have them. I have them. This is like how not to run business. I gave away all the masks at like 30 cents, and when COVID hits, I could have sold them for $3. I would have made like $9 or $10 million on that same inventory that I just gave away 6 months before COVID hit. Literally. You hear this story, you're like, oh my God, this is the worst time in the world. The guy buys $3 million product, fire sells it for $1 million because nobody will buy it. I didn't want it to expire, so I just fire sell it. COVID hits, and then everybody's calling me up. Do you have masks? Do you have gowns? Do you have all this stuff? We need it now. Everybody's out. I'm like, oh my God. So what do? I go reorder everything again. I'm like, we're going to make this back, right? It's COVID. We're going to make it back. The first 2 months, I do make it back. Like we made a couple million profit the first 2 months. But I'm like, put everything into this. Start ordering. We were flying. The numbers are insane. It was like, in the hundreds of thousands, we would pay for full freight airplanes and fly them over to China, fill them up with all these disposable products and fly them back. We're like, we're going to be the heroes. Well, if you know that disposable world, everything turned really quick. So Medline and McKesson and all these manufacturers caught up after about 4 months. They all their inventories caught up. So as I'm air flying everything over, I got shipments of containers coming over. Long story short, I get caught with another $3 million sitting just in this inventory warehouse. And they're like, oh, McKesson's back, Medline. It was like deja vu again. I'm like, dude, I already did this lesson before. And it was like me and so many other people during COVID were in masks. I remember there was like realtors selling masks. Do you guys remember this?
No.
It was like insurance guys selling them. Like it was the craziest thing because everybody needed masks.
Well, I remember the COVID tests were huge. I had a buddy that did real well selling COVID tests, but yeah, it was like a really short-lived, situation where you had like a 6-month window or a year window to make a lot of money. So it sounds like you doubled up and then everyone else caught up and you're like, oh, here we go again. Yeah. So frustrating. Oh,
no, same thing for you, Brandon. Like, okay, so in order to be successful in life, you can't hit a home run every time, right? It's never going to happen. I know that sounds easy, but it's like, I have to sit there in board meetings like, okay, you just lost the company you lost $2 million 3 years ago, and then you turn around and lost another 2.5.
You're consistent.
Like, from an investor standpoint, can you just please stay at a disposal? So I'm like, I signed up. I'm closing this company. We will never, if another pandemic, like I'm just not gonna, I'm gonna stay out of that. It's not my area of expertise, but I tell that because it's all right to fail, right? But if you're going to fail, what I probably should have done is just failed on a smaller level. The COVID pandemic thing was an anomaly. I mean, that's like hopefully it's a once in a lifetime, a thing. So that was a little bit, pouring jet fuel on the fire. But still, when I look back, 50 years from now, I'll be like, I will have made, hundreds of millions, if not billions over my whole career. And if I have a couple losses where I had 5 or 6 things that I lost 2-3 million on, it's fine.
But it's that mentality that made you all that money, right? I did the same thing. I'm in CBD, like I said, and I bought a bunch of CBD sanitizer, from China, came in. I had cases and cases and cases of it. And just like you, everyone caught up. Every CBD company had a sanitizer. Like the next week after I placed my order, I probably got like 50 emails saying we got CBD sanitizer, and I'm like, oh man, like but it's that mentality that gets you where you're at, right? You got to take risks. And I think for my industry, it's frustrating. Like when you talk about painkillers and stuff like that, I have a product right now. It's called HHC. I've tried everything for pain, right? Everything you can think of, acupuncture, every pill. I don't like the way painkillers make me feel. I have a healthy alternative, but there's no way, like when you talk about insurance companies, I know I could give this product to a doctor's office. I deal with a lot of concierge doctors, and I know this is better for the client. I know it is going to help their pain levels, but there is no way in hell the insurance company is going to approve it. So it's situations like that are very frustrating. Have you ever, as I know we did a CBD deal together, do you ever have a product where you're like, I know this works, but insurance company isn't going to cover it? There's no chance. Have you been in that situation, and how frustrating is that?
That's my life on a daily basis. Like any month, we bill anywhere from 9,000 to 12,000 claims per month. So let's just say 10,000 claims a month. We will get denied on 45% of them. So I have 4,500 claims that my team has to fight on a monthly basis. Like it's just, it's out. And the stuff that's crazy. It'd be like, Tim, like it was your sister had the hip surgery?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like she's had a hip surgery. She has a super high risk for blood clot. There's like a 45% chance of like, yeah, denied. You're like, whoa, it doesn't make any sense. The game it's the saddest thing. We have to go back and just fight them for 2-3 months. And then they go, okay, well, this company fought us for 3 months. Now we'll pay it. Like it's not like we provide the studies, the literature, there's a Surgeon General warning on blood. Like all that stuff's done. It's just the insurance industry is built around not paying for things. Like that's just how it's done.
Yeah, it's like for car insurance, same thing. They find every way not to pay. That is you have to have it, but when you need it, it's like, well, this happens. They find every excuse not to pay. When you manufacture, I assume it's a lot overseas. Did you have to fly out there, or because that's the main thing that I've had issues with is the communication barriers. And I feel like 1 out of 10, you'll find a good manufacturer. Like, all right, I finally found one, but then it's 9 out of 10 of shit products that you can't use. I feel like the highly successful manufacturers is they have a connection out there where they can actually fly out there, meet them. Did you have the same kind of scenario, or what? I guarantee there's been many products that you've made be like, oh, this is shit, throw it away.
It's probably about the right number. If 1 out of 10 is actually a good manufacturer, makes a good quality product, 99 out of 100 manufacturers in China are shady. It's what it is. And they will take your product and rip it off. Like, I've seen my product has 22 patents on it. We filed a 2-year international lawsuit taking down other people trying to make, same thing everybody deals with. You ever, like, Rolex has spent so much money. Same thing with, like, Louis Vuitton. Like, they make a great high quality product, and then somebody in a China manufacturer is like, oh, I can make the same thing and change the stitching a little bit, and now I've got Louis Vuitton with a slightly off. Like, and it happens all the time. So they're like, the way you ultimately make a lot of money, I feel like, in business, and I remind myself of this all the time because it sometimes is a 2-3 year play. Like, in the very beginning, we were doing Me Too products. We were just representing other people's stuff, right? And then we started getting into, like, technology, bringing on engineers, bringing on, like, our own product development team. We want to make unique stuff that was better, that really made a difference, like lighter weight, mobile, lithium ion batteries, so you can move around with it. Like, we did a lot of innovation to it. But if you're going to innovate, you better put patents around it, because your competitor's going to, like, the next day take your idea and duplicate it. So we spent a lot of time and money on patents. It has helped us, and we've also had to defend those patents so that way people don't rip them off. And I think that is ultimately where, when you get into, like, that, the big companies, if you want to be like a really big, like, $100 million, billion-dollar company, you have to protect those trademarks and patents. So
yeah, I'll tell you, you kind of hit on something. I always wish that I could go back in time right before COVID and just, buy into some mask company or something like that, and then get out of it in about 6 months. Cause it's funny. I remember going to Old Town Sac, in that, like, kind of touristy area there. And there were whole stores that were just selling masks. They weren't doing anything else, right? Like, they would normally be the stores that were selling you the silly T-shirts and stuff. I went to Sacramento and all I got was this stupid shirt. Now they have the masks. And I was just like, that's so funny. I'm sure if I go back there now, they won't have anything there. I don't know what will be in its place, but that is something, man, I really wish I would have jumped on that right away. But you're talking about running into all these issues with the medical patents and the medical issues and things like that, other companies there. But you mentioned earlier you kind of started with penis pumps. You ever think maybe you should have just stayed with that? Because I think you'd have a lot less competition and people saying, no, we already have a penis pump contract with, Sweden. We can't do this with you. I just say Sweden because Austin Powers had a Swedish-made penis enlarger pump, and that's kind of what I figure.
So in the medical world, nobody even uses the word penis pump. It's like it's called vacuum therapy. It's like it's for erectile dysfunction. It's like a real thing. Like, it's urology. Like, it's a real issue. That's why, like, Viagra and Cialis and all these medications, those medications were originally developed for neuropathy, and it just turns out, like, you couldn't, like, people wouldn't have, like, feeling in their fingers and stuff, so they're trying to move blood to the extremities. And it turns out that they were moving a lot of blood to extremities, and it did it pretty well. And that's kind of how that developed. So the quote unquote penis pump it's vacuum therapy. It was, like, designed for a purpose. We tried it because in our space, we have insurance contracts like Blue Cross, United Healthcare, Cigna, Medicare, all that. And it was an approved product on our vendor list. So we were just like, hey, we have it on contract. We can talk to some of these urologists who are right in the same buildings as our other doctors. Let's just try it. It wasn't successful, so we got out of it quick. And I think one of the big lessons on this is, like if you asked me, 20 years ago, that I'd be doing blood clot prevention, like, any room I walk into, I'm definitely the dumbest person in the room. And I'm not just saying that. Like, these guys are, like, neurosurgeons, orthopedic surgeons. They went to school for 14 years. I barely, I think I cheated probably, like, halfway, like, half of college was, like, me finding ways to rip off answers from, like, smarter kids in class. Like, I'm for sure not the smartest person in the room. I never thought I'd have a medical device company that has patents and is doing, like, class 2 and class 3 medical devices. Like, it would have never, if you asked me 20 years ago, it would have never happened. But I think the point is, like, it's not always how smart you are. It's more your drive and passion and desire to figure things out, and just being, like, we're really transparent with doctors. They'll ask me questions all the time. I'm like, I don't even understand what you just asked. You know, like you're way smarter than me. Like, do you mind if I just take 24 hours and go look up the right answer? They laugh and they're like, yeah, no problem. Like they scratch their head and they're like, you're the CEO of this company? Like, yeah, you know.
Everyone we have on here, like it's been the ongoing theme, the successful guys, everybody's humble. Everyone knows they can learn more. And I feel that's an ongoing theme is literally everyone we've talked to. We're on, this is episode 16, and we've had professional athletes. We've had highly successful people in all kinds of fields, and across the board, it's humble. They always can learn more. They don't know everything. And I feel that's really good advice to give listeners is if you're, want to be an entrepreneur, you got to be humble and you got to take action. Those are like the two big things. And that you can always learn more. There's no one that knows it all. And it seems like the know-it-alls don't do very well.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And also, you remember that first year, like when we talk about like the different products and stuff we were selling, like anytime you start a business, it's hard, right? If it was easy, everybody would do it. That's like, it's same thing. If you're doing anything, when loans were hot, everybody was selling loans. When real estate was hot, like, I mean, I always make the joke, everybody and their mom's a realtor. Like my mom's a school teacher and she became a realtor. Like she's very good, but I don't know, in any given like small town, there's 100 realtors. Like the barrier to entry is not very high. So for me, I remind myself almost every day, like what we do is very, very hard. Insurances deny it. Like we're fighting we fight dealing on so many different issues, but because of that, it keeps a lot of people out of the space. It would take somebody probably about 7-8 years to get to the level we're at, just with like products, technology, distribution. Like we have a lot of, they call them moats, so you want to create moats around your business that keep you, successful and keep people out of your area. So
thanks for watching Two Bees in a Pod. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share, and thank you for all the love and support.